Oh, Mario 64. You're held on such a high pedestal, toted around as the pinnacle of Mario games. You are the peak. But you really aren't. Maybe at one point you were, but it's not 1996 anymore, and we've come a long way. Now, I know what you're thinking. What right do I have to dump on everyone's favorite childhood game? I mean, I wasn't even born then, but I've been playing games since I could barely hold a controller. You want proof? Here. Look, that's me. Now, I've been told that the controller was unplugged in this picture, but my family has yet to bring up the evidence in a court of law, so yes, I've been a game connoisseur for quite a while. Well, it's best not to dwell on the past too much. We gotta keep moving forward with the video. The first time I encountered this mythical game was back in the Wii era. My brother-in-law had showed me it when it first appeared on the virtual store and was pretty excited, as it was something that he grew up with. I didn't really understand his hype because it looked like a Picasso painting to me, but I would go on to give it a try and play it for all of one day and made up my mind that it was okay. It wasn't until much later in life when I started to appreciate the so-called classics more that I came back to it and played through it, but I still couldn't finish it. I got about 3/4 of the way through before I put it back down and went to a different Mario game. Like, I get it, I understand, it was a revolutionary game, changed the way we viewed gaming as a whole, and all that other junk. But like, there's more up-to-date options out there. I've seen people compare Odyssey and 64 and say that 64 is better, and I've seen people say that Odyssey is better, and I've also heard that it's like comparing apples to oranges. No, it's really not. Their core mechanics are pretty close. I'd go almost as far as to say near identical. It's more like comparing an original iPhone to an iPhone 13. One is revolutionary and the other is an all-around upgrade. Now, this video isn't meant to compare the two, but whenever somebody talks about a 3D Mario game, it always comes back to this. And this bothered me enough. So what I'd like to do is give it another chance, and look at it hyperbolically. If it came out today, how would it fare? I won't be looking at graphics because it's not even a fair fight. I'll just be looking at gameplay. And since I'm giving Mario 64 another chance, why don't you? Yes, you, the viewer, give subscribing a chance. Now, first off, by today's standards, the controls are a bit clunky. Precise, but still clunky. It's not really free to micro adjustments, but that's more of a problem with the controller and the technology at the time. Movement is relational to the camera, and sometimes that's a big hurdle to get over if you didn't grow up in this era. I found myself fighting the controls and movement a lot to do simple platforming. I chalk that up to being more used to modern platforming controls, so I won't be too hard on it. Moving on, all the stars are different from each other, which is good, and it provides enough unique gameplay. 120 stars is a pretty substantial amount to collect as well, but it's also pretty much the only meaningful thing to do. Collect red coins? It's for a star. Find invisible secret spots? A star. Collecting 100 coins? Star. Now, this isn't a bad thing. It gives the player an incentive to do those things, one of which is not overtly told to the player in the game, but it's just the main objective. Collect enough stars to fight Bowser. There really isn't a side objective, unless you count collecting all the stars a side objective. It's honestly just an extension of the main one. I understand the ability to make up side objectives in your head, but they weren't something that were programmed in, or intended. What I'm getting at here is 120 stars may seem like a lot to collect, but it ends up being done in a short time frame since there isn't anything to sidetrack you away from collecting them. The only other thing is collecting the other caps, which help you collect more stars. You could argue that the technology of the time didn't allow for it, but we can look at another game that came out on the N64, Ocarina of Time. This game had plenty of side objectives, and quests to do that did not progress you at all, just there to help you waste time. So what I think happened here is they lacked a vision for more, or a scope for more. Maybe it just wasn't in the budget to add more stuff. It's understandable though, because it was a launch title mainly to show off the power of the N64. But that said, I think the gameplay loop is fine, and that there's plenty of content to bog you down for a day. But it really falls down to how well you can move through the levels. Speaking of, every level is pretty unique, offering a variety of different platforming and theming while making use of the mobility offered. And the mobility options are simplistic yet complex at the same time. Average players will be able to maneuver through worlds just fine, but true gamers will find an alternate, quicker path to reach the goal, which I suppose is why speedrunning popped off so much with it. But I want to go back to level design real quick. Most of them are pretty good, but some of them just suck a whole bunch. The good ones excel both at set dressing wise and overall gameplay enjoyability, while the others don't look great or are just a pain to play in. This one brings joy. This does not. Overall, they're good, and the music is pretty decent too. They managed to get a lot out of the old Big Crush synth and trumpets. Honestly, the game isn't bad. but it's not near perfect like these game journalism sites say it is. It's probably a solid 7 out of 10 if it came out today. I am curious though to see what other people would give it. So sound off in the comments, out of 10, if Mario 64 came out today, what would you give it? I'm just mostly bothered that they consistently say that it's near perfect, even putting it next to titles like Odyssey or even Breath of the Wild. Wait, those sneaky bastards. They've changed up the article. During the editing of this video, I went back and checked the article, and it's much different from when I saw it last. The original article had Mario Odyssey on the list, and it was before 64, but this one doesn't at all. And IGN's original review for Odyssey was below a perfect score, but this time it's a perfect score. And I'm no mathematician, but a 9.8 is below a 10. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but this title says Top 100. Unfortunately, the only evidence I have for this is the screenshot I took on my phone of the failed bookmark load, but oh well. Like, I get what they're doing here in the review. Nostalgia sells views, but I think that sometimes we let nostalgia cloud our judgment. And that can be said for most things, not just games. But sometimes we let that cloud distract us from the new cool things that are coming out. But hey, I'm a sucker for nostalgia too. But that brings the question, at what point do we just take old Mario 64 out back and... Oh, I didn't actually... I thought it wasn't loaded. It was a joke, right? Oh man, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here.